was at the training ground most of the day, in the weight room with the players.
In the weight room with the players?
Yeah, sometimes I like to let them know.
I was going to say.
Credibility comes quick when you got 400 pounds on the bar, you know?
JJ Watt, welcome to the Football Daily. Thank you for being with us. When did you first start thinking about investing in a British football club? And maybe also just that bit of background of your other sort of businesses and your business acumen as you were coming to the end of your playing day.
Yeah, so early in my career, obviously I was just playing ball and trying to be great at that. But the further you go, the more you learn about money management, financial, everything. I come from a middle-class family. We weren't rich, but we weren't poor. We had it well. And then obviously I'm very fortunate to have made a whole lot of money playing a game. And so as you go, there's plenty of people with advice on what you're supposed to do, how you're supposed to do it. But I knew that as it grew and grew that I would want to do something, especially as I got to the end of my career, to keep the competitive juices flowing. So team ownership came into play there and just started looking all around America. Became really interested in English football, and then I started poking around different teams, having conversations, and a path that eventually led me here to Burnley.
I mean, there are several Americans now and American groups as well, not just individuals, who are invested in a lot of English football. Why? What do you think the attraction is of our football to invest in?
I think each person has their own different reasons. For me personally, you look at an American football club. You know, right now they're all valued in the billions of dollars.
Well, Washington was the last one to go, and that was
$6.05 billion.
Yeah.
So you take my amount of money and you put it into that, and congratulations, you have one seat at a game, not at the board table, not at anything. But you come over here and the valuations are different and there's more opportunity. And you also can kind of choose the level you want to be at. You know, you want to go into Tottenham or Man United or Chelsea, that's the American football level. You drop down to Championship if you want to, you drop all the way down League One, League Two. But I saw an opportunity where I could get involved at the level I wanted to be involved at, be in the board meetings, learn, grow, while also bringing something to the table myself in terms of global notoriety, more eyeballs to the game, etc. But ultimately, the thing that brings you to English football is the history, tradition, and passion and supporters. That's it.
And community as well,
Correct.
which has always been a hugely important part of your playing career. You have bought into that right from the very start.
I don't see much point in doing something if you're not going to go all in on it. And so for me, when I was drafted by the Houston Texans, I had never been to Houston before. I had no connection to Houston. But if I'm going to ask those people to come cheer for me on game day, I better invest in those people also. Same over here in Burnley. I'm an American with zero ties to Burnley. Why would they do that? So I better show them that I'm willing to come over and invest in them and to put my time and energy and to learn about them. You can't just expect it to happen.
The other thing that always strikes me with it as well is there's a danger element investing in a football club, because you can go up as what you can
financially or emotionally.
Well, but everything. Absolutely, there is that.
Yeah.
But if you have a terrible season at the Houston Texans, nothing's going to really happen disastrously by you look
in terms of relegation.
In terms of relegation.
In terms of my own mental status, it's pretty bad.
Obviously.
But relegation, I understand what you mean.
And therefore your investment in something like this
much more volatile.
Much more volatile.
Yes, but that's also the attraction. I mean, you look at Wrexham. Everybody wants to talk Wrexham. You look at Wrexham. That's the attraction, is you can take a club that you buy for £2 million and you can turn them into a 10, 20, 4,000x multiple of that. That's also the thrill of it. That's why you get invested in it. That's why it's so exciting and exhilarating. I wish there was a way for us to do that on our side, but there never will be.
Do you?
When there is a literal consequence for winning and losing, it makes sport as close to the truest form of sport that you can have. When you know that there's nothing bad that can happen if you finish last, it kind of dilutes the product.
You obviously bring a whole variety of different expertises to the boardroom here. Do you think your insight into players and what players want and the psychology of players can transcend different sports and is one of your main strengths here?
I would say that's certainly the thing that I bring to the board and to this organization that nobody else can, is what it's like to be in a locker room, what it's like to be in a competition, what it's like to be at this point in the season and fighting for things. Just yesterday, I was at the training ground most of the day and having breakfast with players, in the locker room with the players, in the weight room with the players, just talking to them.
In the weight room with the players.
Yeah, sometimes I like to let them know.
I was going to say.
Credibility comes quick when you got 400 pounds on the bar, you know? But those are the moments to me that I'm the most useful to this club, because I can sit down and have a conversation with a player, whether he's going through a rough stretch, and I can talk to him about that rough stretch. You have to remember, these are 22, 23, 24-year-old kids. They're going through all this for the first time. I'm fortunate enough to have been through this before. And so I can talk to them, like, how do you mentally handle that? I know what you're feeling. Or we're going through a great stretch and we need to keep it going and we can't get complacent. These conversations to me are the most value that I can bring to the club.
Do you look at them sometimes at 21 and 22? And I do. My eldest is nearly 22. And I look at them and think, my God, you're still so young. And yet you're having to carry all of this responsibility. And yet you would have had to have done the same when you were drafted.
Yes, and I think that you try and help them understand the balance of burden versus beauty. Like, it's such a, yes, you could on one hand look at it as a burden, and that's the part where if somebody's struggling, it can crush you under its weight, where you feel that, whether it's the team, the fans, whether it's your future contract possibilities, all that all of a sudden weighs down on you when you have one bad performance. But on the flip side, you try and get them to understand the beauty of, A, it is only one performance. B, look at everything you have in front of you. Look at all these opportunities and how much you can change your life, your family's life. Like, when I watch these games and I go to these matches with these fans and these supporters, I told our players this last year in one of our meetings. I said, you truly do not understand how you affect these people day to day. You control their attitude for an entire week based on how you perform. And I'm not talking winning or losing. I'm talking how you perform in terms of attitude, in terms of effort, in terms of intensity. And that's the thing that I'm proud of our guys.
And there's actually sort of no better example of that within the Burnley squad than James Trafford, really, who had such a tough season in the Premier League. And yet this season is part of a defence who has put together this remarkable run and tried to get you to come out of retirement for Cincinnati as well. I mean, that is the perfect example of what you've been talking about.
James Trafford knows who he is. He's confident in who he is. And he came back this year and is putting on performances. I mean, 2 penalties within 10 minutes. Like, he's doing things that you're just watching, like, there's no chance. There's nothing. Sure enough, every single time. But that's because of the belief in himself and the amount of work that he's put in for it. And he deserves everything that he gets. But I was also okay with the 2-1 win the other day. You know, he can let one in.
Were you even a little bit starting to be worried about the?
Not a little bit. I was actually starting to get like because my wife came up to me. She said, "You're not serious about this, are you?" And I said, "Well, if he truthfully does 24 matches straight without letting in a goal, that will be one of the greatest performances in the history of sport." And I would be ridiculous not to honor my side of it.
A bet's a bet.
Yes. So I had been training slightly differently for about 3 weeks leading up to the goal. And I did take a day off after he scored the goal. So a deal's a deal. I'm sorry.
Am I right in thinking that when you were first around the place, you thought with a few years of training that if you were going to play football, you'd be a goalkeeper?
Yes, without a doubt. I'm an athlete by nature, so I'm very confident in myself. B, I thought keeper, I'm like, just stop the ball. My wife was a professional footballer for 10 years, and she said, okay, big shot, go hop in goal and let's see. And I was quickly humbled. And I no longer believe I could be a keeper at the Premier League level, no matter how much training I have.
When you look at how players are treated in one sport compared to another, do you think there are greater things that can be done over here to help our players? I mean, they play such a ridiculous number of games.
I just had a conversation with a bunch of the players yesterday where they were asking me about off seasons, and they said, how long do you guys get off? And I was explaining, and they were like, that's a lot of time off. I was like, yeah, it is. It's very nice. I'm not going to lie.
Because there's actually more off-season. If people don't know, there's more off-season than on-season with the NFL.
But it is a train crash every play. So it is a very different game from that standpoint. They're completely different. Even the first thing I noticed when I came over and I started watching training sessions with the guys and the meetings and things, much shorter days than our days. But I was talking to Vince at the time, and I was like, man, the guys come in late, we watch meetings, we go to practice, then they go home. I was like, that's a short day, should we not have them in longer? He's like, well, how many matches do you play a year? I was like, 16. And he's like, yeah, well, we have 46. So you can't grind them every single day for 9 months straight, you know? It's just a very different, completely different system.
Just finally, you are absolutely relishing everything that comes with being part of this football club.
I love it. It's a beautiful place. I love the people. I love the passion. I love what it means. I think that's the whole reason I got into it in the first place, and that's what makes me so drawn to it. It's why I walked from the hotel to the match the other day, just because I want to be amongst the people.
Brady's not going to get this investing in the Raiders, is he?
He's got Birmingham, he's got the Raiders, he's got a lot going on. But it looks like he's on his way up to the championship. I hope to not see him next year.
Absolute joy to meet you.
You as well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Cheers.